Welcome. This video is going to be about a multi-point, multi-input recipes with applied energistics. So if you have ever run into a problem where you're used to placing a pattern provider on, let's say, a single machine, right? Like a furnace or something, right? Here's an example, right? Bam. And you can set your auto eject or whatever and back into the pattern provider and call it a day. But sometimes you can't exactly do that, right? When it comes to multi-block machines such as this one, where you have multiple hatches, like you need multiple inputs, especially one that might be a fluid and one that might be an item, or different ones like in mechanism. Go away. In mechanism, you've got this, but sometimes you can't, like for both your extra and your input, you can't put them on the same side. So you'd need to use multiple sides for input, which means you can't just place a pattern provider down and call it a day. So the way around that is by using a subnetwork. So I'm going to show you one example that you can do for a multi-block, and you can adjust it to work with anything that needs however many inputs that you need it to have, right? So for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to place a pattern provider, and we're going to adjust it so it faces, how can I get it facing the right way? There we go, this way, right? So when you have a pattern, and the pattern we're going to be using is for annealed copper hot ingot here. And that takes 1 copper dust and 1/4 of a bucket of oxygen, right? So it's just an example recipe that needs 2 different inputs. One that's an item, one that's a fluid, and they need to go into different places. And it outputs one item, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to place this into here. And so here's our pattern, right? And so by wrenching it, we have the arrow, so it will push it only into an inventory that's facing that way, right? Which means we're going to place an interface on it. Now this interface and this pattern provider, because this pattern provider is connected over here and it's got power and everything, this interface does not have power. They're considered 2 separate networks. They are not connected directly, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to hook this up here and we'll place some storage buses on all of the inputs, right? On the output, we're going to place an interface, and we pretty much want to pipe this back into the pattern provider. Now here's the thing. Big if you do not care about channels, right? If you're okay with this setup using 2 of your channels that go to here, literally just hook it right in. But if you want to cut down channel use, go ahead and throw down a storage bus like that. All right, you're going to hook this up with quartz fibers because you just want power going across. And then over here, you're going to do the same thing, just so you get power. Now, if you did not use the storage bus and you let the cable just go right into the pattern provider, you wouldn't need this fiber here, but you would still need this one. So now, if you look at the top, right up here, right, it says there's 3 channels being used, which is your interface and your 2 storage buses. Over here, there's only 2 channels being used, your interface and your storage bus. They're subnetworks. They are networks that are not part of the main network, which is this one, but you can still transfer items between them. So now, if we were to request items here, it would push into here. Now what we need to do is, especially if you have hatches or places where specific things need to go, you just filter your storage buses. So in this case, copper ingots go in, copper dust, so we're going to grab a copper dust, go into the item hatch. So we're going to place that in there, right? And then for the fluid, we're going to go and we're going to drag the oxygen there, and that just tells it where to go. You can do this for however many. If you need more than 7 inputs, which unless you're using some crazy multi-block, if you need more, you can always set up another ME controller on this subnetwork and just use that to get more channels out of it, so long as it does not touch the original or this one, right? Now, over here, just set up so whatever it's exporting gets pushed into the interface. This interface will then dump it into the storage because it's treating the pattern provider as the storage. But then the pattern provider storage is just the return inventory, which will dump it back into wherever it can, which in this case is here. So now what I've got here is, let's see, annealed. I think annealed might actually need Canthal. So let me swap this out real quick. So now if I go and I request, here it is. Yeah, if I request an annealed hot copper ingot, next, and I need processing, crafting, processing stuff. Completely forgot about that. Okay. Well, let's, what do I can do like this? There we are. So now if I request one, right? There we go. It placed the thing in there and it placed my thing over there. And it will make it. And when it's done, you'll see it complete. So let's see. Takes a while. And there, it dumps it out. It was in here, it dumped down to here, and it should end up here. That's it. You can adapt this for any other machine, such as the mechanism machines. Right? You just isolate your inputs using storage buses and a subnetwork, and then isolate your output and just have it dump it right back into the pattern provider. Another thing is you don't even have to have it hook up directly to the pattern provider. That's why you don't need the storage bus here, technically. You could just have this be input. The resulting items or fluids do not have to go through the pattern provider. They just have to be recognized that they go back into the system as a new item. But it's always nice to put it back into here and save a bit of channels, right? And that's the setup. And I hope this helped.